A Course in Miracles, a transcription of the shorthand notes manuscripts of Helen Schuckman, first draft text volume. That's what I'm reading from. A Course in Miracles. Ultimately, every member of the family of God must return. The miracle calls to him to return because it blesses and honors him, even though he may be absent in spirit. Ultimately, for me, in A Course in Miracles, generally, when ego mentality is gone, that would be ultimately. So nothing but the God mind, the Jesus-like mind, peace, joy, strength, goodness, love, zero negative emotions, the ego mind, feelings of deprivation, remorse, all the negative emotions. Ultimately, every member of the family of God must return. So ultimately, everyone must live in supremely happy with strength and joy, moment to moment, thought, word, or deed. To me, that's what it's saying. So this sentence might be in the complete edition, Robert Perry's book. Maybe not in the FIP. Anyway, the miracle calls to him to return because it blesses and honors him, even though he may be absent in spirit. A Course in Miracles is what I'm reading from. Um, a miracle, anything filled with peace, joy, strength, goodness, moment to moment, thought, word, or action. To me, that's the general definition or general idea of a miracle. And our real creations, which would be our miracles, anything that we do that is thought, word, or action, joy, peace, and strength. Those are our real creations, and our real creations call to us to return fully to the God mind of peace, joy, love, goodness. Um, to bless and to honor. Honor is a strong word. High respect. So high respect, high self-esteem for yourself and for everyone. There's a sentence in the book like, the worth of every human being alive is inestimable. You cannot overestimate your brother's worth. Sentences such as that. In terms of honoring, respect, et cetera, et cetera. Plenty of those, that word is used a lot, respect, honor, et cetera. Those words are used a lot in A Course in Miracles. To bless is another strong word in terms of goodness and love and the will of God and such. Um, the miracle calls to, the individual to return because it blesses and honors him, even though he may be absent in spirit. Um, you know, absent in the sense of not living in the Jesus like mind, fully, not living in that mind fully. Okay, so reading from A Course in Miracles, the notes of Helen Schuckman. Um, the miracle acknowledges all men as your brothers and mine. It is a way of perceiving the universal mark of God in them. Probably not in the FIP. Probably it is in the CE version by Robert Perry. The miracle, joy, peace, strength, goodness of in any way acknowledges all men as your brothers and mine. So the author here, considering the author is, very much of this book is first person Jesus of Nazareth. Not that Jesus of Nazareth, the spirit being, is writing this, but it's written in that fashion of first person Jesus. So the miracle acknowledges all men as your brothers and capital M mine. So, again, when a word is capitalized, um, at least with the first letter in the word, then that would be the perfect self, the perfect capital S self. So capital M mine, the perfect Jesus of Nazareth. The miracle acknowledges all men as your brothers and mine. So, um, yeah. Uh, the oneness of all people in terms of a brotherhood. It is a way of perceiving the universal mark of God in them. again, capital U for universal, capital M Mark. Uh, again, the Jesus-like mind, perfection in terms of goodness, strength, joy, peace, supremely happy, zero negative emotions of any kind, no doubt, uncertainty, feelings of deprivation, problems with grievances, or any other negative emotion, none, zero. Living in the capital U universal mark of God. You want to see that, or you or anyone wants to see that, see the perfect self in everyone. Um, that's what the focus is on everyone's perfect self, everyone's Jesus-like, Christ-like, perfect self in terms of character, goodness, love, joy, peace, strength, every thought, word, or action. Um, so here's something about just strictly for Helen here. Um, Special concern about for Bill. You might add that his false idea. So, reading from A Course in Miracles, the notes of Helen Schuckman. You might add that his false belief about his own exclusion from universal love is fallacious in your terms and arrogant in his. Uh, so, every human being alive is a perfect Christ-like being. That's their real self. That's their capital S self. Anything else going on in terms of anger, resentment, feelings of deprivation, et cetera, any negative emotion, that is not their capital R real self, their false self. That includes everyone. You or anyone has to think that way about themselves and also think that way about every other human being alive. So arrogance would be a negative emotion. I'm From what I recall, ACIM doesn't use that word a lot. Arrogant. It may use it on occasion. Um, in this sentence here, again, these sentences might be in the CE version by Robert Perry, probably not in the FIP. So, reading from A Course in Miracles, the notes of Helen Schuckman, his real, all capitals, his real, REAL, specialness does not stem from exclusion but from inclusion. All my brothers are special. He should stop interpreting this as this is okay. So, all right, well, um, so specialness. There's definitely a sentence in the book, no one is special. You are not. I think verbatim ACIM, you are not special would be a sentence in this book. So special in that sense would be doing something other than God's will, doing something and thinking something could be better, greater than God's will. That cannot happen. It is not the case. So nothing is ever special in that sense. However, the book also does talk about specialness from a positive standpoint here. So its real specialness does not his real anyone's his real specialness does not stem from exclusion but from inclusion. So everything is about relationship. Everything. Nothing is about yourself. Everything is about relationship, either with another human being or with God Himself or someone else. Always, nothing is ever about yourself. You're never alone. Um, Everything is about inclusion in terms of the brotherhood. Every thought, word, and action should be in the best interest of the entire creation at all times, all personal beings and all of creation. So, um, inclusion versus exclusion. Everything is about joy, peace, strength, and goodness in relationship with everyone at all times, including God Himself. So, all my brothers are special, reading from A Course in Miracles. So, the word all is in capitals, all, capital M, my brothers are special. So, um, the author here is saying, my brothers, in particular, those that are, and capital B brothers, so those that are living in the Jesus mind, those that are perfect in terms of living in the Jesus mind. Um, Everyone living in the Jesus mind has a different function. Jesus of Nazareth, as a spirit being, has a function in the spiritual realm. This book talks about him as being in charge of the sonship. There's other couple similar statements in this book, A Course in Miracles, about him. But uh, uh, but anyone living in the God-like mind, the Jesus-like mind, the Christ-like mind would be considered brothers and special in that sense, um, in terms of function in God's will, in terms of perfect peace, joy, strength, goodness. Okay, reading from A Course in Miracles, the notes of Helen Schuckman tell him that the implied lack of love that his version contains is way off the mark and misses the level of right thinking entirely. He must heal his perception in this respect. He must work a miracle on behalf of himself here. So there should be no lacks of love. That's an expression in this book many times. God himself is perfectly loving in terms of joy, peace, strength, goodness, every, everything about that moment to moment. God himself is loving in that sense. And as God's extensions, every human being is an extension of God himself, a creation of God himself. And so every human being's capital S self is always perfect joy, peace, love, strength, no lacks of love ever, moment to moment, in any way. All right, and misses the level of right thinking entirely. Right thinking, again, same idea to me. Joy, peace, strength, goodness, every thought, word, and action, moment to moment, tranquility, et cetera, et cetera. That's right thinking to me. And, to me, there's one sentence in the manual that says, the mind can be right or wrong. So, in terms of everything, mental, physical, spiritual beliefs, emotions, thoughts, actions, behavior, all of it, there's a right or a wrong way to go about everything. The right way brings supremely happy, perfect joy, perfect peace, perfect strength. Uh, the wrong way brings less than that, less than that. So, reading from A Course in Miracles, he must heal his perception in this respect. He must work a miracle on behalf of himself here. So, everyone has to heal their perception, their minds, their ways of being, heal. So, going from any ego mentality in someone's mind, ego mentality, the negative emotions, healing all that, having that all transformed or transmuted into God mind energy, Jesus like mental energy, Christ like mind mental energy. That would be the healing that everyone has to do. So um, this may or may not be in the CE version by Robert Perry. Maybe it's probably rephrased if it is. See the point about miracles as a perception corrector. Reading from A Course in Miracles, miracles are a perception corrector. That may be in the book. I mean, again, uh, anything filled with joy, peace, strength, goodness, thought, word, or action, a miracle in general, you know, uh, is a perception corrector in terms of how someone thinks. Thoughts lead to actions. Perception corrector, reading from A Course in Miracles, before he can effect miracles as creative energizers. Well, miracles are creative energizers. That word, miracles are energizers. That's in the book at least once, maybe here, maybe a couple times, maybe in the CE version or even the FIP version. But miracles, as creative energizers. So living in perfect joy, peace, strength, goodness, love, exuberance, kindness, gentleness, humility, all of it, moment to moment. That's being energized. That's living life fully. I'm thinking about that line about, Jesus said, "I came to give you life and give it to you more abundantly." That I do not believe that line is in A Course in Miracles anywhere, but that would be the idea of living with stillness, strength, but tremendous joy, peace, tranquility, goodness, being energized all day long, whether that energized way of living, uh, in meditation, alone in meditation with God or with others, but always active in terms of service, whatever it might be, moment to moment, being energized. Okay, so reading from A Course in Miracles, the notes of Helen Schuckman. What can't be wrong is the universal sonship of which he is a part. So capital U, universal, capital S, sonship, of which everyone is a part, cannot be wrong. So, God is always right. I'm trying to think how they put that in ACIM, but God's will always takes place. God is a personal being, the first person of the Trinity. In this book, it makes one reference to that, maybe a couple, but one reference about God is the prime creator, and he created, but God is the prime creator in the Holy Trinity, and he created his co-creators, which would be the other two members of the Trinity. There's a sentence like that in the book talking about the personal God. Um, but the personal God, the first person of the Trinity, God himself, um, does everything perfectly in terms of joy, peace, goodness, strength, love, etc. So the capital U, universal, capital S sonship, the perfect universal sonship. So every human being, every spirit being, this book mentions angels, but every human being, every spirit being, Jesus of Nazareth in the spiritual realm as an individual spirit being, any human is part of the capital U, universal, capital S sonship, meaning, you know, our perfect selves, our capital S selves, our Jesus like selves as human beings living in perfect joy, peace, strength, goodness. Reading from A Course in Miracles, the notes of Helen Schuckman. God would be mocked if any of his creations lacked holiness. And the creation, capital C creation, is whole. The mark of wholeness is holiness, not holes. The sonship has no holes anywhere. Sounds as if they're bringing in a little humor there. It's probably in Robert Perry's CE book, probably not in the FIP, but so reading from A Course in Miracles, God would be mocked if any of his creations lacked holiness. So every creation of God, which includes every human being alive, at least as far as being a creation of God, every human being's capital S self in terms of their mind and spirit is created by the first person of the Trinity, God himself. Ego mentality of anything that's not supremely happy, any negative emotion leading to words and actions is not created by God as far as the mind is concerned. Um, but everyone um, has the God mind in them. This book talks about the God mind being at the center of our minds. There's a couple sentences referring to that, but and there's a couple workbook lessons to try to get a feel for that or access that. But the idea is that everyone is already created perfect. You have your perfect way of living right now, the Jesus-like way of living, Jesus after his baptism and his public mission. Everyone has that way of living right now. And it's simply removing the blocks to its full awareness is the idea to me in ACIM. So everyone is in perfect joy, peace, strength, goodness, etc. That's everyone is living in perfect holiness, and the creation is whole in terms of every being's perfect self. Um, the mark of wholeness is holiness, not holes. Um, I mean, words, to me, there is no coincidence in certain words. I mean, dog spelled backwards is God. And there are, I'm going to say, attributes of a dog that are godlike. I don't want to go into that topic. It's not in ACIM, but there's no coincidence to words to me. Um, wholeness, um, Jesus like, perfect joy, peace, strength is holiness, holiness, sanctity to God, perfectly fulfilling God's will, living in God's will to God's satisfaction, holiness. Same idea. And then the humor here part about comma, not holes. The sonship has no holes anywhere. There's not much comedy in this book at all. As a matter of fact, this book never uses the word fun or humor. Never even uses the word humor, not once in this book. So, however, that to me is one maybe the only place in a book where I would recognize the book as being humorous in some sense. Um, but the sonship has no holes anywhere. Certainly, meaning that eventually, everyone lives in their capital S self of perfect peace, joy, strength, goodness. That's how everyone lives, and that's how everyone thinks, says, and does anything ever. And that would be, in the sense of no holes anywhere. All right, reading from A Course in Miracles, the notes of Helen Schuckman. Wholeness is the perceptual content of the miracle. It thus corrects or atones for the faulty perception of lack. I mean, everything is about content and meaning. Nothing is about form, including body forms. Wholeness, perfect joy, peace, strength, goodness, um, is the content of anything that is joy, peace, strength, goodness, a miracle. So, um, moment to moment, everyone is supposed to be supremely happy. So if anything takes place, any thought, word, action, behavior, any of it, if anything takes place where someone is not supremely happy, that was an ego thought, word, or action. Um, so wholeness is the perceptual content of the miracle. It thus corrects or atones for the faulty perception of lack. So no one is in any lack of any kind. I mean, ACIM says like, one of the problems with the ego mentality is no one is seen complete. In other words, someone needs something external to themselves, um, and that is never the case. Um, no one needs anything physically external to themselves ever in any way whatsoever. Everyone is whole and complete as an individual without anything external outside of themselves, including and especially anything physical outside of themselves is never necessary ever. So there's never any lack in anyone in any way ever, mentally, physically, spiritually, in any way. Wholeness corrects or atones for atones for atoning, atoning, living one with God, atonement, atoning, living in God's will would be how I would just say something about the word atones. Um, the faulty perception of lack. So if anyone sees lack in any way, they are wrong. There is no lack in anyone in any way, shape, or form in terms of everyone's capital S self. So lacks should never be perceived as real for anyone ever at any time. We now return. Okay, reading from the notes of Helen Schuckman. We now return to the fundamental distinction between miracles and projection. The stimulus must precede the response and must also determine the kind of response that is evoked. The relationships of whoever these two people are extremely intimate. The behavioristic terminology is because this part deals with behavior. Behavior is response, so that the question response to what becomes crucial. So some of this is probably in Robert Perry's CE version of A Course in Miracles, and probably restated in some way. All right, so we now return to the fundamental distinction between miracles and projection. So ACIM uses the word projection to talk about ego mentality. For example, feeling as a victim in any way, or feeling deprived in any way, or feeling a grievance in any way. That would be projection. Someone else is at fault for whatever, for anything. That would be a projection. That would be completely wrong, completely incorrect, but that's what ego projection would be. Um, so miracles again, um, you know, one of the lessons says, "I am not a victim of the world I see," and there are other similar, very similar, many statements. Good many statements in ACIM about, no one is a victim in any way ever. Um, everyone has perfect joy, peace, strength, goodness, moment to moment. So the stimulus must precede the response and must also determine the kind of response that is evoked. There's a sentence in the book, I'm trying to remember, something like uh, sight is always secondary to desire. So if my desires are pure, holy, good, sinless, pure, holy, filled with love, joy, peace, goodness, if those are my desires, that's how I will view the world. That's how I will think. That's how I will feel about anything I'm looking at physically. Or um, so um, uh, the stimulus must precede the response and must also determine the kind of response. So if my thoughts are not pure in terms of perfect joy, peace, strength, goodness, sinless, pure, holy, in terms of everything about any subject, anything going on in any way, um, I'm going to have something that's less than supremely happy in terms of my thoughts, my outlook, my feelings towards whatever I see. Um, Something uncomfortable about my viewing whomever, whatever, wherever. Uh, ego mentality. So the relationships are extremely intimate. Um, I don't think that's in the book. Um, it may be in the CE version somehow. Intimate to me is just perfect joy, peace, strength, holy relationships amongst everyone. There's a sentence in the book about, relationships are not used by you at all. That would be a sentence in the book. They are used only by the Holy Spirit, and that's what keeps them pure. So everything is always about surrender to the Holy Spirit in terms of, and by the way, the book never uses the word surrender either, but it's about, living in the will of God, living in the will of the Holy Spirit in terms of everything, moment to moment, every relationship, everything that's going on in every way. That would be what I would say about intimacy in terms of perfect, holy relationships with absolutely every human being alive, every moment, moment to moment. Behavior is response, so that the question response to what becomes crucial. Um, well, uh, behavior is response. So there's a sentence in the CE version about this book is a guide to behavior. So everything starts with the mind. Obviously, I can say obviously, but everything starts with the mind in terms of thoughts, beliefs, and then that leads to words and actions. So behavior is response to thoughts. So that the question response to what becomes crucial. In other words, where are my thoughts at? Are my thoughts perfectly pure, joyous, strong, kind, tender, loving, humble? All of it, moment to moment, every thought in terms of anything about anything. Um, if those are my thoughts, about anything, then that's going to be how I respond to any situation, any moment, anything going on in any way. Response to what? Behavior is response, so that the question response to what becomes crucial. So it's crucial that I live in the God mind. There's a right at the beginning of the introduction of this book, um, in the original text. The original text, what I'm reading here, the text, text, the original text. Even in the introduction, it says, um, this is a Course in Miracles. Something about it is crucial to say that this is a required course. The same. I'm paraphrasing some, but it's the sentence that goes like, you know, it is crucial to understand that this is a required course. Um, so, um, so other things that are crucial are um, living in the perfect God mind, so that every thought, word, action is filled with joy, peace, strength, goodness, humility, love, care, concern, compassion, honesty, trust, etc., etc. None of those negative emotions. Um, and so then, from every thought, every word and action is filled with Jesus like joy, peace, strength, goodness, etc.